Hey there, deep divers. Ever get that feeling, like the future's already here, it's just not evenly distributed yet?
You got it.
Well, that's the exact territory Dr. Carmel Weissman dives into on her podcast, The Post-Human Condition. And let me tell you, it is a wild ride.
Absolutely. Dr. Weissman, she's a cultural and technology researcher at Tel Aviv University. She's not just looking at gadgets and gizmos.
No way.
She's exploring how tech is changing what it even means to be human.
I love that.
And she does it by blending these insights from philosophy, history, art, you name it.
Okay, see, this is what gets me so pumped. It's like we've got all these different fields of knowledge, right? And she's finding the hidden threads that connect them all.
Yeah.
I'm already feeling smarter just thinking about it.
Well, get ready to have your mind stretched even further because as we dug into Dr. Weissman's podcast, we noticed three major themes running through her work.
Okay.
First up,
Yeah.
the ethics of emerging technologies. We're talking AI, biotechnology, things that could reshape our world in ways, we haven't even imagined.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks, myself included, you hear AI ethics and instantly think, like sci-fi, robots taking over.
Right.
But Weissman's approach is way more grounded.
Absolutely.
Right.
For example, in her episode, Ethics Intertwined with Quantum, she brings on this expert, get this, in quantum mechanics.
What?
To talk about how our understanding of the subatomic world might actually influence how we develop ethical frameworks for technology.
Whoa. Okay, my brain just went full Matrix for a second there. So it's not just about robots deciding right and wrong.
No.
It's about how the very nature of reality might be changing the game.
Precisely, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Another major theme Weissman explores is the evolving human experience. We're talking about how technology is changing our relationships, our sense of self, even our physical bodies.
Wait, hold on. You're saying our physical bodies might not be as fixed as we think.
Yeah.
That's some seriously mind-bending stuff.
That's a great way to put it, right? Like, we're already seeing things like prosthetics that can feel pain or even tech that lets us communicate through scent.
What?
It's like we're in a sci-fi movie where the boundaries between human and machine are, becoming increasingly blurred.
Oh, man, I can't even imagine the ethical conundrums that must come with that. Like, what if you could literally feel what your phone is feeling?
Right.
We'd need a whole new set of rules, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. And that's precisely what Weissman explores in her episode, Cyborgian Boundary Games.
Oh, cool.
She dives into these questions about how technology is changing our perception of ourselves and the world around us.
And speaking of changing perceptions, I got to tell you, the episode Single Body, Many Parts, Organs for Transplant, that one really got me thinking about the future of medicine.
Yeah.
And how it's challenging our notions of what it means to be a whole person.
It's fascinating how Dr. Weissman connects these, seemingly disparate issues.
Totally.
She doesn't just talk about the latest tech. She uses that tech as a launching pad to explore the deeper implications for humanity, for our cultures, and for our very understanding of reality.
Exactly. And you know what? This isn't just some theoretical exercise. Dr. Weissman isn't afraid to get her hands dirty, right?
Exactly.
She features real-life experts, like artists, game designers, even the scientist who grew the first lab-grown meat. It brings this whole post-human condition thing into sharp focus.
Yeah, you're right. The fact that she brings in experts from so many different fields is what makes her podcast so powerful. It's not just about the tech, it's about how that tech interacts with our lives, our beliefs, our fears, our hopes.
You know, one thing that stood out to me was the episode called The Technology of Ideology. It made me realize how technology doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It plays a huge role in shaping our ideologies, our beliefs about the world, even our political systems.
That's a huge point. Think about it. From the printing press to social media, the tools we use to communicate and spread ideas have fundamentally changed how we think about the world. Dr. Weissman delves into that connection, exploring how technology and ideology are, intertwined.
And speaking of interconnectedness, I'm now obsessed with the episode Cats from Acres and Dogs from Paros, Multi-Species Anthropology. Imagine a podcast about cats and dogs in the age of technology. Who would have thought?
It's a brilliant example of how Dr. Weissman expands our horizons beyond just humans and machines. She explores how technology is impacting our relationship with the natural world and our interactions with other species.
You know, it makes you think about all those videos of people teaching their pets to use AI-powered toys. It's not just about humans and machines, it's about the interconnectedness of everything.
Right, and that's what makes this podcast so thought-provoking. It forces us to re-examine our assumptions about ourselves, our relationship to technology, and our place in the universe.
So, okay, let's take a breath. We've just covered a ton of ground here. But honestly, I feel like we've only scratched the surface. The post-human condition, that's a big topic. And Dr. Vaisman is a master at leading us through it all.
I know. And that's why we recommend the post-human condition to anyone who wants to challenge their assumptions and expand their understanding of the world. You know, it's funny, we often think about technology as like this cold and impersonal force.
Right.
But listening to Dr. Vaisman's podcast, you realize it's anything but,
Yeah.
It's deeply intertwined with our humanity, our creativity, our search for meaning.
That's so true. And she reminds us that the future isn't some preordained thing. It's something like we are actively shaping. With every choice we make, every technology we embrace, every story we tell.
Exactly. And speaking of stories, you mentioned earlier that Dr. Vaisman had a guest on who talked about gaming and the post-human condition. Tell me more about that.
Oh man, that episode, Let the Player Be Player One, totally blew my mind. It dives into how gaming, especially with these crazy realistic VR experiences and AI,
Wow.
is blurring the lines between the virtual and the real.
I can see where that would get interesting fast.
Right.
What kind of questions does she explore in that episode?
Well, she talks about how games can challenge our ideas about identity.
Okay.
Like what happens when you can inhabit different bodies,
Mm-hmm.
different species, even in the virtual world. Does that change how you see yourself in the real world?
That's a really good question. It makes you think about the metaverse and all the hype around it. Are we just creating new digital playgrounds? Or are we fundamentally changing how we understand what it means to be human?
Right. And she also gets into some really interesting ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
Like in a game, actions might have consequences,
Right.
but they're not always real-world consequences.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does that impact our morality? Does it make us, I don't know, more or less ethical in our real lives?
It's like she's constantly pushing us to think beyond the obvious, to consider not just what technology is, but what it allows us to imagine and to become.
And you know what? As much as Dr. Vaisman's podcast is about technology, it's also about something much bigger.
Yeah.
It's about understanding ourselves, our place in the world, and the choices we face in this era of, like, unprecedented change.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you're looking for easy answers, this isn't the podcast for you.
Nope.
But if you're ready to have your mind blown, to challenge your assumptions, and to embark on a journey of intellectual discovery, then the post-human condition is an absolute must listen.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Deep Divers. A glimpse into the thought-provoking world of Dr. Carmel Vaisman's The Post-Human Condition.
It's a wild ride.
Now go forth and explore.